better get started. Welcome back to our second winter school lesson. Today we are going to continue talking about functions. That's what we agreed upon the last time I saw you guys, which was on Monday afternoon. And if you all recall, we were busy with this question over here. We'd actually managed to do 4.1 and 4.2. I don't know if you guys remember that. But we had managed to answer those questions before it was time for us to go, and then we decided that we would continue with this the next time I saw you. Okay, so if you recall from the last time, we said that the value of P was equal to -1. Do you remember that? P is equal to -1. And the other thing that they've asked us to do is to show that A equals 3 and B equals 2, and we would do that by substitution. Okay, so in order to work out that A was equal to 3, we subbed in point D, and to show that B was equal to 2, we subbed in the point 1 and 0, okay, which is one of the x-intercepts of the parabola. Okay, so what that means for us, I'm just going to write it up here, is that the graph of f of x is x squared plus 2x minus 3, and the graph of g of x is going to be 3 over x minus 1. Okay, and remember last time we had discussed that this graph has been shifted to the right, but it has not been shifted up. So it still has a horizontal asymptote, even though it hasn't been shifted up. The x-axis is its horizontal asymptote. But anyway, I don't think they ask us anything about that in this particular question, but if they did, then that would be our answer. Incidentally, if they did ask us for the equation of the horizontal asymptote of the hyperbola, how would we write that? How would we write that it's the x-axis? Does anybody know? Do you guys know what the equation of the x-axis is? Or did you know that the x-axis has an equation? It's not the line x equals 1, Bruce, unfortunately. The line x equals 1 is the dotted line that's drawn on the Cartesian plane. That's it. Michael's got the right answer. Quite right, Michael Sandile. It is the line y equals 0. And similarly, the y-axis, its equation is x equals 0. Okay, good job, Michael. Thank you very much for putting that down. Okay, so if they did ask you that, you would say that the line y equals 0 is the horizontal axis. They don't ask it, but if they did, that's what you'd say. Okay, next thing, calculate the coordinates of C. So if we go down and go and look at the diagram, what does C represent to us? It is the
turning point.
Indeed it is. Okay, so now there are 3 ways when you're in matric, if you've done calculus as well, but maybe if you haven't done functions in calculus, maybe not, but there are 3 ways that you can work out the coordinates at C. One way is to use calculus. So when you want to calculate the coordinates at the turning point, so there are 3 ways. I'm just going to write this down for you guys so you can make a note of this. The first way is to use calculus. And we work on the principle here that if we were to draw a tangent to the function at C, the gradient at C is 0 because the line that we've drawn, the pink line that I've drawn, is parallel to the x-axis. Okay, so what I could do is I could take the first derivative, which in this case would be 2x plus 2. Everybody happy with where I got that from? I applied the power rule to my f of x, and the gradient at C is 0. So 0 is equal to 2x plus 2. So minus 2x is equal to 2. So therefore x would be equal to -1. That's one way of being able to work out the x coordinate at the turning point. The second way that you can do this is using the formula that's not on your formula sheet, x equals negative b over 2a. Do you remember that from grade 11, guys? Okay, so x equals negative b over 2a. So if we go up here and we have a look, so that would be negative 2 over 2 times 1. So equals negative 2 over 2 times 1. And you see we also get negative 1 as an answer. All right. And then the last way would be to use midpoint formula. All right, now that would work in situations where we know what the x-intercepts are. In this case, we know what one x-intercept is, but we don't know what the other one is. And also because we don't know what this is over here, the x-coordinate at the midpoint, we can't work it out by symmetry. So what we would have to do in this case is actually do a whole proper solution for it, which is not difficult. X squared plus 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. So, but this would obviously be the long way of doing things. Plus 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. And then, of course, we would have to factorize. So that would be x plus 3 times x minus 1. So therefore, x would be equal to 1, or x is equal to negative 3. So those are the x-intercepts. So now working out the coordinate of, or the x-coordinate at the turning point using midpoint formula, we would say 1 plus negative 3 all over 2. And again, we would get negative 1 as our answer. Okay, so there are 3 different ways that you could possibly do this matrix. I think in this situation, going with option 3 is really silly because it's really long. So I probably would have gone with option 2, but if you understand option 1 and you've done that at school, then that would obviously be fine as well. The only way that you can work out the corresponding y coordinate is to then go and sub minus 1 back in. So you'd end up with y equals minus 1 squared plus 2 times minus 1 plus, was it minus? Oh, it's minus 3. And I think someone's already told us the answer. You've got negative 4. Yeah? Oh, look, there we go. Neo is on the ball. All right, well done, Neo. There we go. Okay, so that's how we would calculate the coordinates at C. In this case, you can see, look, it's worth 4 marks. Okay, so you want to get all 4 of those marks. It's an easy question. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that. All right, 4.4, write down the range of F. Makes sense that they would ask us that after asking us to calculate the coordinates of C. What do you guys think the range should be in this case? What would you say? You can pop it into the chat if you want, or unmute.
Y is greater than or equals to negative 4.
Okay, good stuff. All right, so I don't know if the rest of you heard what Cassandra said. That was lovely. Okay, because this graph is smiley face, it has a minimum. So Cassandra is quite right. Any value of y that is generated by this function is going to be greater than or equal to negative 4. Good job, Cassandra. Thank you so much. That was lovely. All right, 4.5. Determine the equation of the line through C that makes an angle of 45 degrees with the positive x-axis. Write your answer in the form y equals. Okay, so what is the deal with lines that make an angle of 45 degrees with the positive x-axis? What does that mean? Why are they telling us this, and how are we going to use it? Anyone got any ideas? It does, Kanyasile, you're quite right. Yes, Mako, they are giving you an angle of inclination. Good job. Okay, so if you can imagine, I'll obviously rub this out. If I draw a set of axes, okay, there's an x-axis, there's a y-axis, and now I'm drawing a line, okay? And I tell you over here that the angle of inclination is 45 degrees. I'm telling you that because what about the line? What does it mean about the line? What is the gradient? How am I going to use gradient? What formula am I going to use to calculate the gradient of the line? Anybody know? There we go. Well done, Kanyasile. Perfect. Okay, so did the rest of you see that? Okay, Kanyasile wrote in the chat, tan theta equals m. Absolutely. And you guys know that the tan of 45 degrees is 1. Okay, it's one of our special angles. Absolutely. So that is just a really funky way of them telling us that the gradient of this line is 1. Okay, so let's just rub that out. Okay, although I think we do need to write that down. That will be one of the things we need to put down there. Okay, so in 4.5, we could say the tan of 45 is equal to m. Therefore, m is equal to 1 in this particular case. It goes through C, so that means we need the coordinates of C. Remember, we said -1 and -4. So now subbing into y equals mx plus C, we're going to sub in our -4, our -1, and that means that C is going to be equal to -3. So the equation of this line, it is the line y equals x minus 3. Okay, so also not so bad. Question 4.6. Is the straight line determined in question 4.5 a tangent to F? What do you guys think? Do you think it would be a tangent? Maybe. Okay, it's actually not going to be, sorry, Cassandra, say what you wanted to.
Ma'am, I don't think it's going to be a tangent because remember when we're looking for the coordinates of C, which is the turning point, using calculus, you got that our gradient was 0. So I don't think it will be a tangent since it will have a gradient of 0 at turning point at C, which is the turning point.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I suppose the difference here as well is that this line is not, the line that we're talking about is not horizontal. The line that we're talking about here is a diagonal line. And the reality is actually, we could look at this in one of two ways. We could work out whether it goes through D, to be honest with you. So because we know that this is the line y equals x minus 3, don't we? So if we wanted to work out what its y-intercept was, that would be super easy for us because we would just say y is equal to 0 minus 3. So that means its y-intercept is -3. So therefore it goes through 2 points. It goes through C and it goes through D, doesn't it? So it cannot be a tangent because it goes through C and D. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, would we have to prove, would we have to actually show calculations that it actually goes through D?
No, you wouldn't. If you have a look here, this question is out of 2 and it says explain your answer. It's not very often in maths that we get asked to explain. Hey, Oratilwe.
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
Oratile, sorry. Yeah, Oratilwe, sorry. So what I would do here is I would say no, and I would say it passes through C and D. And I am certain that that would be more than enough to get you those 2 marks. If they want you to substantiate what you are saying with a calculation, they'd have to make it out of more oratil, where 2 marks is not something that it can have a lot of work in. Okay. Or require a lengthy explanation. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, and there we are. Now, this is actually the reason why we're doing this question. It's actually not because of everything else. I mean, it is, but this is actually the reason why I chose this particular question. And this is the whole thing in maths. We give you something, and then we apply a change to it. And then we ask you, how has it changed, or what's been done, etc., etc. So that's what question 4.7 is all about. Before I carry on, yes, can you see, do you want to ask a question?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, if we had to prove it, how would we actually go about it?
Well, what I would do is I would do exactly what I had done here. Let me just go back to this. This over here. Okay, so you know that the equation of the line, it's the line y equals -3. And then I would show here that I'm calculating the y-intercept. I'm letting x be equal to 0. Y is equal to -3. So therefore, y equals x minus 3 passes through D. And then you could go up here and say, no, it can't be a tangent. It passes through point C and point D.
Oh, okay. So, ma'am, a question like that also says we should prove it will be out of how many marks? Estimated.
I would guess in this case it would probably be about 4 marks if they said something like that. But yeah, what we've done here is fine. I mean, if you just wanted to be thorough, you could do what I had done in purple and the same in the green over here. But I'm fairly certain that if you just wrote no, it passes through C and D, they would still give you all the marks. Okay. It's a pleasure. I'm so glad you stopped me and you asked a question. There's no problem with that at all. Okay, guys, so let's go and have a look at this monstrous question number 4.7. Maybe what I should do is just make this a little bit bigger here. I guess it's a bit hard to read with all this writing all over the place. Okay, so the function h of x equals f of m minus x plus q has only one x-intercept at x equals 0. Determine the values of m and q. I don't know about you guys, but I think that's a pretty difficult question. Okay, so the function h of x equals f of m minus x plus q has only one x-intercept at x equals 0. Determine the values of m and q. Does it make sense to you that this is a transformation sort of question? I mean, the fact that they've given us h of x equals f of m minus x plus q, that's them telling us that some kind of transformation has taken place and that we've got this new graph h of x, right? So now let's just unpack this a little bit more. Okay, f of m minus x, what does that mean? What have we done to the graph? We're not used to seeing m first and x second either, are we? Yeah. So what does f of m minus x mean to us? I mean, how would something like this normally be written? The x would come first, wouldn't it? So normally, yes, go for it.
Can I say that I don't know if I should say it is translated or reflected to the y-axis.
Okay, what makes you say that there's been a translation, a reflection though? You're right, but why are you saying that?
Ma'am, because in this case, we are starting with m, and our x is the only one that is a negative.
Okay, so the fact that they've made the x negative, what are they trying to tell you, Cassandra? By making the x negative, what are they trying to imply? They're trying to imply that x has changed sign, isn't it? That's what they're trying to imply. Okay, x has changed sign from being positive to being negative. So you're on the right track, Cassandra. That's really lovely. What you could do if you wanted, oh, hang on, there's a whole bunch of people saying stuff in the, okay, the graph, hello, listen to me. Okay, Kanisila says it's shifted to the left. Aisha says it's shifted to the right. Bootley says it's been shifted up. Yes, it has been correct. It has been shifted up as well. Now we've just got to figure out, was it shifted to the left or was it shifted to the right? Okay, so first things first, what you can do is this, guys. Okay, you can take out, we can leave that as a square bracket. We can take the negative out, and then here we can write this as x minus m. Does that make sense to everybody? Are you happy with that? So just writing it a little bit better over here. If we've got f of m minus x, we can factorize out the negative. That gives us x minus m. So now when we have a look at this, we can see that x has changed sign. That means that f must be reflected in the y-axis first of all. Okay, so it's been reflected in the y-axis because x has changed sign. Okay, if it's been reflected in the y-axis and x has changed sign, it's now undergone two more transformations. So in other words, it has also been shifted either left or right, and it has been shifted up, you've said. All right, so if it is reflected in the line over the y-axis, all right, then essentially it's now coming to sit sort of like that over here. It only has one x-intercept. So this new coordinate over here, what are the new coordinates going to be? It was -1 and 4. So here it's going to be 1 and 4. Does that make sense to everybody? So can you see there what you were saying is correct? Because now what's happening is at this point over here, it's going to be shifted to the left, 1. Okay, sorry, it's actually over here. Sorry, I'm drawing it in the wrong place. Sorry, Matrix, that's a little bit confusing. Sorry, it's here now. This is where the turning point is now. Okay, it's over here at 1 and 4. So you're quite right, Kanyesile. In order for this graph to only have one x-intercept, here at 0, it needs to be shifted 1 unit to the left, okay, and then 4 units up so that it eventually comes to sit over there. Badly drawn by me, but I hope that that makes sense. Is everybody happy with that? Does that make sense, guys? Okay, so it's been reflected in the y-axis. Let's just finish this off.
Ma'am, I don't understand. Why is it 1 and 4 instead of 1 and -4?
All right, that's fine. I'm going to explain that to you right now. I'm just writing down the answer. Okay, so it's been translated 1 unit to the left, 4 units up. So therefore, m has to be equal to -1. And Q has to be equal to 4 in this case. All right, so now let's go back and have a look at this again for you, Cassandra, because I'm sure if you're confused, there's probably other people that didn't understand. Okay. I have drawn all over this. Let me just rub some of this writing out because I think that makes it so confusing as well. Okay, so Cassandra, we are taking our graph and we are reflecting it over the y-axis. Okay, so I'll try and draw this as neatly as I can. When we reflect it over the y-axis, oh, that's a horrible parabola, but anyway, does that make sense to you? So in other words, this point over here has been reflected over the y-axis and it's now sitting over there. Because the coordinates here were -1 and -4, it's still in the same horizontal line, but because it's been reflected over the y-axis, it's now over here. I'll just call it C prime, and it's now at 1 and -4. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. This is what I was saying, because first you wrote 1 and 4.
Pardon?
At first, ma'am, you wrote 1 and 4 instead of 1 and -4.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Cassandra, I do that sometimes where I leave off negatives and whatever. I beg your pardon. Okay, so it was at 1 and -4. I've drawn it in the correct place now. So now, if you want to move it so that its turning point is now here at the origin, you're going to have to move it 1 unit to the left, and you're going to have to move it 4 units up. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's been reflected over the y-axis, and then in order to have its turning point at the origin, we would then need to translate it 1 unit to the left and 4 units up. And that's why M would have to be equal to -1, and Q would have to be equal to 4. Okay. Mache, because that's what they told us. Okay, in the question, I'm going to go back to the question now. Let me just find it here. Look here, Mache. Okay, they said, has only one x-intercept at x equals 0. Yes, because x is equal to 0. That's quite right. Okay. How are we feeling? You want to give me an emoji? Cool, thanks, Kanizile. Okay. If you're not feeling happy and you've got a question, please ask. Okay, you know that I don't mind going back over things. That's why we are here. Okay, good stuff. In that case, let's move on and let's go and have a look at the next question. Cool, Tisha. I'm glad to see you've got clapping hands. That's great. Okay, where are we? Okay, so here we go. So one year they did this to the matrix and they gave them given f of x equals -ax squared plus bx plus 6 and no picture. How hectic is that? The gradient of the tangent to the graph of f at the point -1 and 7/2 is 3. Show that a equals 1/2 and b equals 2. How's that for a first question? I mean, it's not easy. It's not terrible, but I mean, that certainly is not an easy first question. And, you know, and if we get a first question like that, it can often be quite off-putting to us because we don't want to sort of carry on with the question afterwards. But try not to let that throw you. They have given you A and B for a reason, so that if you couldn't do question 4.1, that you could still go on then and do 4.2 and 4.3 and 4.4 and whatever it is. So don't, if you cannot answer the first question, but they've given the information that you need to carry on, don't just leave the rest of the question blank. Try and use that information. At least then you've only lost 5 marks and not everything. Okay, so the gradient of the tangent to the graph at the point -1 and 7/2 is 3. Okay, so we do need calculus for this. All right, but we did answer that other question where we spoke about the gradient of the tangent. So hopefully we should all be fine with how we would answer this question. Okay, so what do you guys think is the first thing that we should do here? What would you do? Any ideas? I agree. Find the derivative, absolutely, because they're telling you that the gradient of the tangent is 3. So I agree. I would also find the derivative. So the derivative, f prime x is equal to minus 2ax plus b in this particular case. All right. And what other little bit of information have they given us that's useful here that we can sub in? Okay, they've told us that the gradient is, yeah, cool. They told us that the gradient is 3, yes. So we can put in the 3. What else can we put in, Matrix? So I agree with you, 3 is equal to minus 2a. Yeah, okay, at the x value. Good, Kanyasila, we know what the x value is. Okay, so this is going to give us 3 equals 2a plus b, and there is equation number 1. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, because chances are, if they've asked us to show that a is this and b is that, they want us to do it simultaneously. All right, so now that we've worked with the gradient, now we're going to need to use something else. What else are we going to do here? We need to, this is the exactly, okay, so sub in the point that they've given us into the original function. This is actually the easy part. Okay, the difficult part was taking the derivative, and it really wasn't that difficult at all. Okay, so now we're going to sub in. So that means that 7/2 f of x is equal to minus a, x is equal to -1 squared plus b times x plus 6. So this gives us 7/2 is equal to minus a minus b plus 6. So I would times 2 by 2. That gives us 7 equals minus 2a minus 2b plus 12. And therefore, 2a plus 2b would be equal to 5 in this case. Is that right? And there would be equation number 2. Okay, so derive, make the derivative equal to 3, sub in the x value so that we're only working in terms of a and b. Sub the point in, all right, and same story, simplify what you've got so that we're working in terms of a and b. Now it's easy. Okay, we're just going to solve simultaneously. All right. I don't know about you guys. I am a big fan of solving, whoopsie daisy, solving simultaneously by using elimination where I can, because these are both linear equations and both of them have got a 2a in them. I'm quite keen on using elimination. So we've got 2a plus b is equal to 3. And then over here, we've got 2a plus 2b is equal to 5. If you would prefer to use substitution, by all means go for it. In my opinion, this is just shorter, but you don't have to do it my way. Okay, so 2a minus 2a means the a term is eliminated. B minus 2b would give us minus b, and 3 minus 5 would give us negative 2. So therefore, b has to be equal to 2. Is that right? Did they say that b was equal to 2? I hope so. Oh, there we go. Oh, good. Yes. All right. So 100%. So b is equal to 2. And now subbing in and working out what a is. So 2a plus b is 2 equals 3. So that means 2a equals 1. And therefore, a would be equal to 1 over 2. Okay, yeah, or you could equate the equations, quite right. You could both make them both equal to 2a, make 2a the subject, and then solve for b first. There's so many different ways of solving simultaneously. So yeah, it's up to you on how you would prefer to do that. All right, are we all good there? Okay, so that was simultaneous solutions for us getting started. Now that the rest of it is fairly easy, calculate the x-intercepts, calculate the coordinates of the turning point, and then sketch the graph. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to let you guys work out the x-intercepts, the coordinate of the turning point, sketch the graph, and then we can do the last couple of questions together. All right, so in other words, question 4.5 and question 4.7. Okay, so when you're done, just say that you're done in the chat. And if you need help, Nicole and I are right here. Wow. Well done, guys. Good job. Cool beans. Well done. You can do, actually, you can do, Tisha, you can do 4.6 if you want to. It shouldn't be difficult. That should be quick and easy for you. We'll do 4.5 and 4.7 together. Okay, I'm just waiting one more minute and then I'll go through the answer with you. Oh, Valerie, well done. Okay. If you haven't finished up till now, I'm sorry if I'm chasing you. Obviously, it's just difficult with different people finishing at different times and whatever the case is. I have been naughty and I've taken a shortcut. So there is 4.4 and 4.6 all in one, but it also gives us the other information, so which was 4.2 and 4.3. So for 4.2, you should have worked out that your x-intercepts were -2 or 6. Your turning point was 2 and 8. And your graph was concave down or sad face. And it looked like that. Okay, and you can see there where your marks would be allocated. So there's a mark for shape. That means that it is sad face. A mark on the x-intercepts, a mark on the y-intercept, and a mark on the turning point. And then they've also put the straight line in. Okay, so that was from 4.6. So this straight line over here is the line minus x minus 1. And all you need for that is an x-intercept and a y-intercept. Okay, and then you're good to go. All right, is that easy enough for everybody? Are we all good? That should have been fairly straightforward after the difficult question at the beginning. Okay. All right, so now another reason why I wanted to copy their answer rather than draw this myself is because my parabolas always look horrible. But also we're going to be reading information off here. So, you know, if we don't have the graph drawn correctly, then it can be a little bit difficult to see what's going on. All right, so now let's go and do question 4.5 and 4.7. All right, so they said to us, use the graph. All right, so we have to use the graph. We can't do it algebraically. Use the graph to determine the values of x for which f of x is greater than 6. Right? What does that mean? What are we doing here exactly? Anyone got any ideas? Let's see what you guys say. Look where f is positive. Yes, it is where it's positive, but that's not exactly what the question means, Aisha, but that's a good try. Aha, there you go. From where y is equal to 6 and up. Okay, so where is y greater than 6 means let's draw a line, y equals 6, and let's look what happens above. Okay, so now what they're saying to us, the y values are bigger than 6 when x is a number between 0, and how are we going to work out what that number over there is? We can use, how can we work out the number over here? Anyone got any ideas? Don't even need the y-intercept method. Okay, so Aisha, believe it or not, you know what we can do? We can use symmetry. Okay, because we know that if x is equal to 0 over here and x is equal to 2 over there, and parabolas are symmetrical, then from here to here is 2 units, isn't it? So that means from here to there also has to be 2 units. So it doesn't matter what the corresponding y-coordinate at this point is. What's important is that the x-coordinate would be 4. Okay, the y-coordinate, obviously, I'm being stupid here, would be 6, wouldn't it? Okay, but that doesn't form part of our answer. Okay, so yeah, good old symmetry. So when x is a number between 0 and 4, the outputs on the parabola are numbers that are bigger than 6. Okay, that's what it means. All right, so how would we write that? So where x is greater than 0 but smaller than 4, or if you love brackets, you could also write it where x is an element of, 0 and 4, like that if you want to, but not a lot of people like the brackets, but you could write it like that as well. Okay, 4.6 we've done. 4.7, write down the values of x for which f of x times g of x is smaller than or equal to 0. So what does this one mean, guys? What is 4.7 asking us about? Okay, so yeah, let's have a look. Not necessarily, no, Michael Sandili, not necessarily, not necessarily. F of x means output on f, right? So f of x means output on f. G of x means output on g. So outputs are numbers. So in other words, you're taking a number, so output on f, a number, and you're timesing it by output on g, which is also a number, and it has to give you an answer that is smaller than or equal to 0. So in other words, we want to get a negative outcome. So when we multiply integers together, how do we get negative numbers? So either where this one is positive and that one is negative to get a negative, or where this one is negative and this one is positive to get a negative. So what we need to look at is where is one above the x-axis whilst the other one is below. Does that make sense to you? Because obviously the x-axis is the line at which output changes sign from being positive to being negative. So we are looking for places on the Cartesian plane, absolutely, not decreasing, Chiamo, not decreasing. If they wanted us, if we wanted to look where something was decreasing, then Shyama, what they would have done is this. They would have gone f prime x is smaller than 0. Okay, so decreasing is gradient. All right, and you're right, gradient can be negative. Okay, but here we are talking about output, not gradient. Okay, Shyama, does that make sense to you? Cool. Sure. I know, it's awesome, isn't it, Nicole? All right. Everybody's prepared to contribute, which is just so lovely. Well done, everybody. Okay, so now we're looking at places on the graph, guys, where outputs are where one of the lines is above the x-axis while the other one is below. Okay, well, one place I can see straight away, and I'm going to draw a vertical line there, is here. Okay, because to the left of this pink line, the straight line is above the x-axis and the parabola is below. So at least one of our answers has to be where x is smaller than or equal to -2. That's at least part of our answer. But I suspect, because it's out of 3, that there's going to be another place on the Cartesian plane that we need to look at. Okay. So to the right of this pink line, they're both above, aren't they? Ooh, until we get here. All right, so over here, what happens? Okay, at this point over here, we've now got the straight line below and we've got the parabola above. And it remains like this until we get to this place over here. So also between where x is equal to -1 or where x was equal to 6, we also find that we have negative outputs on the G times the positive outputs on the F, which will give us a negative. Does that make sense to everybody? So here, the other part of this is or, where x is greater than or equal to -1, but smaller than or equal to 6. Okay, and that's our 3 marks. 1 mark for that, and then there would be 2 accuracies on this answer over here. Does that make sense to everybody? Is this okay, guys? You sure? Okay. Yeah, please do ask if you don't understand. There's absolutely no issue with that at all. Okay, now before we carry on, I can't believe this whole hour is gone. I was going to do this question with you guys as well, but it doesn't matter. I just want to ask